So some Renaissance art and artists, Masaccio, he is the painter of the Trinity, and the Trinity was the first painting we looked at, and so you can look it up. But basically, we've got Greek arches and Greek columns. We've got in the center of the image the cross. We've got a vanishing point in the back. Masaccio is a key early developer of, therefore, this linear perspective, the ability to make a painting look like it has depth. Donatello is a sculptor. His David is made out of bronze, and Donatello's David is the first nude sculpture in the round, meaning you can walk around it, and you can if you go to Florence. It's the first nude sculpture in the round since the since the ancient Romans. In other words, we see in this an interest in Greco-Roman art. It's depicting David in a very sort of secular way also. David is not viewed as a religious, pious, humble Christian, but instead he's cocky, standing over the head of Goliath, literally standing on it, with a smirk on his face, and of course he's naked too. All of which would suggest this is not something you'd find in a church. And you don't. It's not in a church. And so even though the subject matter is religious, as is most of the subject matter of Renaissance art, the way it's depicted is not. It's not depicted with that sort of pious or spiritual emphasis that earlier artists had. Botticelli is a painter. His most famous work is The Birth of Venus. I mention these paintings because it's useful if you're going to study for the test that you have 5 Renaissance paintings that you memorize in case there's a question about Renaissance art. This is up to you, right, to figure out what you want to study really close. But The Birth of Venus is a good one. Why is it good? Well, we see Venus, she's naked. This shows the influence of Greco-Roman sculpture on, Renaissance artists. She's, this beautiful, idealistic-looking woman, which shows that influence once again. Ancient Greek and Roman sculptures often showed these sort of very, very strong, near-perfect people. Very beautiful. But what else about this painting? Well, it's Venus. So the birth of Venus depicts the birth of a Roman goddess. And so, obviously, there we see the Greco-Roman focus as well. And of course, the painting has all sorts of bright colors, which shows the use of all sorts of oil paints that enliven Renaissance paintings. So that was Botticelli. Da Vinci is, Leonardo da Vinci is key in developing shadowing that is known as chiaroscuro. And I might be misspelling this. But chiaroscuro is shadowing, intense shadowing designed to give depth or roundedness to something. So Da Vinci will have a round, we'll use chiaroscuro to show the roundedness of someone's arm or someone's cheek, someone's face, to give intense depth to his images and make them look realistic. Raphael, painter of the School of Athens, amongst other things. But the School of Athens depicts Plato and Aristotle discussing in this Roman, or Greek rather, this Greek environment surrounded by other philosophers interested in truth. And so you see that influence of Greco-Roman figures, Greco-Roman ideas, Greco-Roman architecture. And of course, it has vanishing point, which shows the sort of linear perspective that attempt to depict reality. Michelangelo's great works in sculpture is David, very large marble David, the most famous sculpture likely in the world. And this shows this Renaissance ideas. Very strong figure. The marble is huge. David also is very muscular, and so this shows the power of the individual human being. It shows the influence of Greco-Roman sculpture, because like Greco-Roman sculpture, he's an almost superhuman figure depicted naked in the round. Michelangelo also painted, for example, the Sistine Chapel was one of his paintings, and we see also there the creation of Adam, which was a part of that. And Michelangelo's images often depicted super muscular figures, and his study of anatomy, along with Leonardo da Vinci, both of them studied anatomy, helped him depict those figures realistically. But often they were beyond what was real, right? They're almost superhuman in their muscle size. And Titian is a Venetian artist, also from the Renaissance, and no single image comes to mind at this point. But he's also, depicting things as they are, using the oil paints to have vivid colors in his paintings. And our architect that we need to know is Brunelleschi. Brunelleschi was the architect of the Florence Cathedral, the dome of the Florence Cathedral. And remember, Renaissance architecture is going to be very different from medieval architecture. Renaissance architecture will have rounded arches, not pointed arches. Renaissance architecture will have Greek or Roman columns that are thick. Brunelleschi, he's right there where it says Renaissance architecture. Renaissance architecture will have columns, Greek or Roman style columns. It will be very symmetrical. It will often be more horizontal and less vertical. And so, whereas the medieval architecture has pointed arches, high ceilings, a lot of activity, spires going up, gargoyles, and windows, stained glass windows, Renaissance architecture will be more symmetrical, more horizontal, and more powerful appearing. Strong pillars, rounded arches, and of course, instead of a spire, the dome, which is a Roman sort of invention. And so Brunelleschi builds this large dome over the cathedral in Florence. Florence, it's Florence Cathedral. It's called the Duomo, D-U-O-M-O in Italian. Florence is the center of the Renaissance, the home of Dante, the home of Machiavelli, a place where Michelangelo and Leonardo do much of their art, the home of Castiglione as well, and of course the home of the Medicis, great patrons of the arts. And so it is, some historians say it's sort of this Athens of the Renaissance, the center of so